I took the job at KFC because I had no other options. My Camaro was totaled after a joyride went wrong, and my old man made it clear, if I wanted another car, I had to pay for it myself. So here I was, flipping chicken at 2 a.m. in a roadside fast food joint where the only thing deader than the food was the atmosphere. It was one of those 24-hour locations off Highway 9, stuck between a gas station that sold expired Slim Jims and a motel that smelled like wet carpet. The night shift wasn't too bad, mostly truckers, drunks, and the occasional couple high off something. Then there was him, the regular. Every Thursday, 1:33 a.m. sharp, he walked in like clockwork. Skeletal frame, a house coat that had seen better days, and breath thick with menthols. Never spoke more than necessary. 3-piece meal, extra crispy. No sides. Sat at table 4, right under the busted light, peeling the skin off his chicken with precise little movements, like a surgeon at work. Shauna, my shift manager, called him Colonel Sanders' ugly cousin when he wasn't around. But there was something about him that made jokes feel wrong. The way his eyes darted to the door. The way he flinched whenever a police cruiser slowed down outside. Druggy, Shauna muttered once. Tweakers love their routines. Maybe she was right. But when 2 Thursdays passed and he didn't show up, I found myself looking at table 4, half expecting him to just materialize. Then, Shauna slid her phone across the prep table. The mugshot glared up at me. Sunken cheeks, greasy hair, eyes twitching in withdrawal. Meth lab raid over on Peachtree, she said, licking hot sauce off her thumb. Guess that explains why he always looked like he was waiting on a drug deal. I should have stopped thinking about him after that, but I didn't. Because that was just the beginning. The heat outside was brutal that night, turning the air thick with the stench of fried grease and rotting garbage. My shift was almost over, and I had one last job before clocking out, tossing the trash. The dumpster sat behind the building, just past the flickering security light that never seemed to work when you needed it. As I lugged a bag of half-eaten chicken and soaked napkins, the smell hit me hard, like something had been baking under the Alabama sun a little too long. I lifted the lid. That's when I saw it. A shoebox wedged between empty gravy tubs. It wasn't unusual for people to dump random junk back here, but something about this felt off. I hesitated, then nudged the lid open with my foot. Inside, curled up like it had just gone to sleep, was a chihuahua. Dead. Stiff. Its tiny ribs are sharp under thinning fur. The red collar around its neck was snapped clean in half. A name tag dangled from it, scrawled in shaky block letters. Colonel. I took a step back. My stomach twisted, and for a second I thought I might puke. Jesus, I muttered. Footsteps crunched behind me. I spun, my pulse jumping. Deputy Mercer, our local night patrol, stood there with his flashlight, chewing the end of his dip. "Can this a kids being kids, Cam?" he grunted, shining the beam over the shoebox. He didn't look surprised, he didn't even look interested. Then, like it was nothing, he spat tobacco juice on the gravel and walked back to his cruiser. I should have left it alone. But I couldn't, because the regular had been missing for 2 weeks. And now, here was this. His dog, dead in our dumpster. And I had a feeling that it wasn't a coincidence. I quit that night. I didn't tell Shauna why. Just peeled off my grease-stained polo, dumped it in the break room, and walked out. For a while I tried to forget, but it's hard to forget things when they follow you home. It started a week later. I was up late scrolling mindlessly through my phone when I heard it. 3 soft knocks on the front door. My breath caught. No one knocked at this hour. I crept to the peephole, half expecting to see Deputy Mercer checking, and maybe telling me they found out who dumped the dog. But the porch was empty. No car in the driveway, no footsteps on the gravel, nothing. Just as I exhaled, thinking I'd imagined it, knock, knock, knock. My skin went cold. I didn't check the peephole this time. I backed away. I locked my bedroom door, and I told myself I was just tired. But the next morning, something was off. My Camaro, the one I was saving up to fix, sat in the driveway, same as always. But the windshield? It was covered in grease. Not random smears, not bird crap, but fingerprints, dozens of them, pressed into the glass like someone had been leaning close, peering inside. And they all looked like they came from the same bony hands. I drove past KFC the next night. I don't know why. Curiosity, stupidity, a little of both. The place looked the same, dim, greasy, barely alive. But something caught my eye. Table 4. The chair was pulled out, just slightly, like someone had been sitting there, like someone had just left. My stomach twisted. I parked across the street, engine running, watching. The drive-thru speaker crackled to life, static garbling some late-night order. And then, just for a split second, I saw movement. Near the dumpster, a shadow. Thin, too slow to be a raccoon, too deliberate to be nothing. And then, it was gone. I should have kept driving. But instead, I gripped the wheel, staring at that empty chair through the window. I had a horrible feeling. The regular wasn't in jail. He was back. And he was looking for something. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the window, I kept expecting to hear those 3 knocks again. But they never came. Instead, at 1:33 a.m., my phone buzzed. No number, no caller ID, just a text. "Where's Colonel?" My hands shook. I didn't reply. I turned my phone off. The next morning I left town. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe it really was kids being kids. But some nights when I pass an old KFC off a lonely highway, I swear, the table 4 chair is always slightly pulled out, and in the dumpster something moves that's too big to be a raccoon. I hadn't slept in 72 hours. The deadline for my final project was breathing down my neck, and no matter how many times I recompiled the damn thing, it still spat out errors like it was laughing at me. My laptop screen burned my retinas. My apartment smelled like stale coffee and sweat. My girlfriend hadn't texted me back in days. "Dude, you look like you crawled out of a grave," Tyler said, leaning against the doorway of my room, spinning his car keys on his finger. "Come on, we're getting food, midnight run." "I don't have time for—" "I'm not asking." That's how I ended up slumped in his passenger seat at 1 a.m., barely registering the neon glow of the KFC sign ahead. The light flickered, half dead. The Colonel's grin distorted every time the current wavered. The place was dead except for a couple of cars in the lot and a single figure behind the counter. The drive-thru menu flickered, static cutting through, the speaker like distant radio interference. "Welcome to KFC," the speaker crackled. "What'll it be?" Tyler leaned out the window. 2 famous bowls, extra gravy. The voice on the other end had a strange, lilting quality, like someone suppressing a laugh. "Fresh batch just came out. Special recipe." I didn't like it, but I was too tired to care. The cashier had a name tag that read Adrian, but something about it felt off. The plastic was scratched like it had been repurposed. His hands were gloved, but not like the usual food prep gloves. These were thick, grease-stained, clinging to his fingers like they'd been worn too long. He smiled too wide when he handed us our bags, eyes flickering over me like he knew something. I didn't. "Enjoy," he said, voice just a bit too soft. Tyler tore into his food before we even pulled out of the parking lot. I forced down a few bites, but something about it tasted wrong. Not spoiled, just different, thicker, richer, metallic. We drove home in silence, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. At 3:00 a.m. I woke up vomiting, my stomach convulsed, my insides twisting like they were trying to crawl out of me. The taste of that gravy still clung to my tongue, thick and cloying. "Jesus, dude, it's just food poisoning," Tyler groaned from the hallway. "Can't handle gravy anymore?" I pressed my forehead against the cool tile of the bathroom floor. "It didn't taste right," I muttered. Tyler just laughed. I spent the next 2 weeks drowning in finals, barely eating, barely sleeping. The memory of that meal settling into the back of my mind like a bad dream. But I couldn't shake it. And when I finally surfaced from the chaos of exams, I knew I had to go back. "We close at midnight," the manager said, staring at me like I was insane. I blinked. "No, you don't. I was here 2 weeks ago, 1 a.m., drive-thru." She shook her head. "We don't do late hours, never have." A cold knot formed in my stomach. Tyler frowned. Then who the hell served us? I pulled out my phone, fingers shaking as I typed. A quick search. A local news article from Wadi 6. Local man arrested for operating an illegal meat distribution. Ring Adrian Lucas, 47, allegedly served contaminated chicken from an unmarked truck. The mugshot showed the same man who had taken our order, but the article never specified what kind of meat. I haven't eaten fast food since. Every time I pass a KFC, my stomach clenches. The smell of fried chicken doesn't make me hungry anymore. It makes me nauseous. I check every drive-thru worker's hands. I watch for gloves, for name tags that look freshly scratched. And every so often I look at Tyler, at the way he never got sick that night, at the way he never questioned what we ate. Some lessons come with heartburn. This one came with nightmares. The KFC on Union Avenue always smelled like fryer grease and fake lemons. The AC barely worked, and the Colonel's face on the wall looked sweaty, like he knew something we didn't. But I didn't care. Today was special. Mom had been working double shifts at the hospital, which meant we hardly saw her, but she'd left $40 with Aunt Regina for my birthday treat. My first paycheck from sweeping hair at her salon had helped too. So here we were, me, my sister, Sophia, my cousin Liam, and baby Noah, piled into a sticky booth near the play area, our tray stacked with crispy drumsticks, biscuits drowning in honey, and a family-sized tub of mashed potatoes that Noah was already smearing across his high chair. Sophia, 16 and permanently glued to her phone, barely looked up as she stabbed at her mac and cheese. Liam, 2 years older than me and convinced he was the next Sherlock Holmes, was already halfway through his first drumstick when he nudged my arm. "That dude's been staring at us since we sat down." I followed his gaze. A man, late 50s, sat alone in the corner, peeling the skin off his chicken piece by piece. His polo shirt was too clean, the kind of crisp that didn't belong in a place where everything smelled like old oil. His name tag said trainee, but it looked ironed on, the corners too stiff. I didn't like the way he looked at us. Not in the way normal people do when they see kids out alone. Not annoyed. Not amused, just watching. Something cold settled in my stomach despite the heat. And then he stood up. No one ever sat with strangers at KFC. It wasn't that kind of place. But he slid into the empty seat beside Noah like he belonged there, folding his hands neatly on the table. "Your mom sent me," he said. His voice was calm, but his fingers tapped against the table. 4 beats, pause, 4 beats, pause. It almost matched the flickering buzz of the neon hot and fresh sign above the counter. I felt Sophia freeze beside me. "Said you kids should come with me now. There's been an accident." The air shifted. The scent of fried food suddenly made me feel sick. Something was wrong. 1, Mom never sent strangers to pick us up. Ever. 2, he wasn't looking at us. He was looking at the emergency exit. 3, his name tag still bothered me. Why was a grown man a trainee at KFC? Liam pushed his tray aside. His face was unreadable, but I could feel the tension in the way his knee bounced under the table. "What kind of accident?" Sophia asked, finally setting her phone down. The man hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough. "She said you'd be difficult," he murmured, and then he smiled. The plastic seat was sticky under my palms, but I didn't move. I didn't blink. Liam did. He shoved his chair back so fast it screeched against the floor. A couple of people looked over, but no one really cared. KFC wasn't the kind of place where people got involved. "Show us a text from her," I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. The man's smile didn't falter, but his fingers stopped tapping. He reached into his pocket, slow and deliberate. Sophia grabbed my arm. Noah, oblivious, babbled around a mashed potato-covered fist, and then, "Everything cool here?" The voice came from behind the man. A college kid, maybe 17, stood there holding a plastic tray, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He didn't look at us, just the man. The man's expression flickered, and then just like that, he was gone. Slid out of the booth and walked straight toward the exit, never looking back. And that was when the door slammed open. Mom stood there, still in her scrubs, her face pale under the fluorescent lights. The police came, took statements, checked the security footage, but it didn't matter, because the footage showed nothing except a man sitting in the corner, eating chicken, and walking out. No crime, no evidence, just a weird guy who left when someone confronted him. Could have been a misunderstanding, the officer said, though he didn't sound convinced. But then they found his car, abandoned 3 miles away in a Walmart parking lot. Inside they found a map with our school circled, 6 Happy Meal toys still in their plastic wrappers, a receipt for the exact meal we had ordered that day. The police didn't say much after that, just that they were looking into it. Mom wouldn't let us go anywhere alone after that. I quit my job at Aunt Regina's salon after that. Couldn't bring myself to walk there alone even in broad daylight. Every time I stepped into a fast food place, I checked every exit first, and I never sat facing away from the door. The colonel still watched from the walls, his black eyes empty, but I didn't fear him anymore, because now I knew what real danger looked like, and it didn't come with 11 herbs and spices. It came with a too clean polo and a smile that never reached the eyes. The rain hadn't let up since her shift ended. Natalie gripped the wheel of her Honda Civic, knuckles white, windshield wipers smearing the downpour into a blur. Her scrubs smelled like antiseptic and something worse, something she didn't want to think about. The ER had been a war zone tonight. The 5-year-old with the head trauma hadn't made it. Her stomach growled, reminding her she hadn't eaten since yesterday's protein bar. She needed food, something heavy, greasy, something that would sit like a rock in her gut and anchor her back to reality. The KFC off I-45 flickered in the rain like a mirage. The parking lot was nearly empty, save for a couple of cars pushed against the curb. The neon open 24 hours sign buzzed weakly against the storm. She pulled up to the drive-thru speaker. It cracked before a voice, flat, disinterested, muttered, "Welcome to KFC, order when ready. Famous bowl. Extra gravy." A pause, then, "Pull forward." The rain slashed sideways as she rolled up to the window. The cashier looked young, maybe early 20s, his uniform slightly oversized, the name tag askew. Trainee. Day 3. His hands trembled as he handed her the bag. His pupils were blown wide. "You okay, man?" she asked. That's when she noticed the napkin underneath her meal. 5 words, scribbled in frantic, shaky ink. "Don't look back. He's in your back seat." Her pulse stopped. Then, very slowly, it started again. She dropped her keys. Natalie's breath caught in her throat. Her grip tightened on the napkin, her brain firing on all cylinders now. Was this a joke? Her fingers brushed the door handle, but she stopped. If someone was really back there, the last thing she needed was to panic and run right into his arms. "Let me use your restroom," she said, forcing calm into her voice. The cashier hesitated, then nodded toward the door near the fryers. As she stepped inside, she caught a snippet of conversation from the drive-thru headset. White Honda license plate. Then the fryer hissed, drowning out the rest. Inside the dingy restroom, her heartbeat pounded in her ears. She gripped the edge of the sink, staring at her reflection. Bloodshot eyes, dried sweat along her hairline. She reached for her phone. 911. Before she could dial, a new sound cut through the storm outside. A muffled click. Her passenger side door unlocked. Natalie barely had time to react. A shout from the kitchen. A scuffle. Then, screaming. She bolted from the restroom just in time to see the cashier being dragged over the counter. His legs kicked wildly as a pair of hands, pale, too long, clamped around his throat. Her breath hitched. Brandon, Her cheating, lying scumbag of a boyfriend. He texted her 3 times tonight. Apologies, promises, bullshit. She hadn't replied. And now he was here. Natalie grabbed the first thing within reach, the handle of the deep fryer. She barely thought, she just acted. With every ounce of strength left in her body, she swung the fryer basket, oil and all, straight into Brandon's face. The sound was sickening. His screams turned inhuman as the boiling grease met flesh. He staggered backward, knocking the drive-thru microphone stand to the floor. The cashier, gasping for air, stumbled away, clutching his throat. Brandon collapsed, thrashing, his hands clawing at his ruined face. For a moment, all Natalie could hear was the storm outside. And then, silence. Natalie barely felt the cold as she stepped out into the rain. Brandon was in the trunk, barely breathing. His scorched face was unrecognizable. She stared at him for a long moment, listening to the storm, to the distant sirens growing closer. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A text from Brandon's number. "Babe, I was just..." Her grip tightened around the tire iron. She lifted it and brought it down. By the time Officer Martinez arrived, the Honda's trunk was empty. The drive-thru was in chaos, burn marks on the floor, shattered equipment, a cashier shaking like a leaf. Natalie stood behind the counter, her scrubs stained darker than before. "You okay, miss?" Martinez asked. She exhaled, slow and steady, nodded. The famous bowl still sat on the counter, untouched. She picked up the plastic fork and took the first bite. KFC wasn't my first choice for a job. Hell, it wasn't even my third. But bills don't care about pride, and my mom's medical debt wasn't getting any smaller. So, I took the graveyard shift at the only 24-hour KFC off Highway 58, figuring I'd coast through nights serving truckers, drunks, and high school kids looking for something greasy to soak up whatever they'd been drinking. And then there was him. The Sunday man. Every Sunday night, 11 p.m. sharp, the door chime rang and he walked, thin as a scarecrow, wearing a yellowed suit that had seen better decades. His skin looked dry, almost stretched too tight over his bones, and his eyes, they were the worst part. Dark, sunken pits that never blinked enough, same order every time. Original recipe, extra gravy, never spoke more than needed. Never used the drive-thru, always sat in booth 3, the one by the emergency exit. The weirdest part? He never actually ate the chicken, just picked it apart, arranging the bones on the tray like they meant something. Denise, my shift manager, had been here long enough to find him funny. She called him the secret ingredient when she thought I wasn't listening. "They say the colonel took his 11 herbs and spices to the grave," she'd joke. "But I bet he comes back on Sundays to check the recipe." I didn't laugh, because every time he was here I felt like he was watching me, like he knew something I didn't. The Sunday man never missed a night. Not once. Until he did. 2 Sundays passed. No door chime. No yellowed suit. I didn't want to ask Denise if she'd noticed. I figured maybe he'd finally kicked it. But she must have seen me glancing at booth 3, because she slid a newspaper across the counter during our 2 a.m. lull. Local man arrested in chicken farm. Meth bust 64, multiple parole violations. My stomach twisted. The mugshot wasn't surprising. The same greasy comb over, the same hollowed-out face, only sweatier. "Meth lab under a chicken farm," Denise muttered, picking at her nails. "Makes sense, doesn't it? Dude always smelled like fryer oil and bad decisions." I tried to laugh, but it felt forced, because the last time I'd seen him, he'd looked at me. Like really looked at me. Like he knew this was coming. Like he was trying to tell me something before he disappeared. A week passed and I started sleeping easier, until I found the bucket. It was just past 3 a.m. and I was on trash duty. The desert wind howled, sending tumbleweeds skittering across the cracked asphalt. The dumpster stunk like rancid grease, same as always, but there was something worse mixed in. Something dead. I almost missed it. A family-sized bucket tucked behind the grease trap. At first I figured someone dumped their leftovers, but when I nudged it with my foot, the weight inside was wrong. Too heavy. too solid. I swallowed hard and lifted the lid. Something small and stiff, wrapped in KFC napkins. A collar peeked out from the mess, red plastic cracked from the heat. Scrawled in shaky handwriting, herb. I dropped the bucket so fast it hit the pavement with a wet slap. That was when I heard footsteps behind me. I spun, heart hammering, but it was just Deputy Ruiz, flashlight already scanning the bucket. Coyotes, probably, he muttered, poking the mess with his nightstick. I didn't correct him, because I knew exactly who Herb had belonged to. I told myself it was over. I was wrong. It started small. A weird feeling, like the kitchen lights weren't as bright as they used to be. The Colonel's framed portrait above the registers, his black eyes seemed blacker. The fryer oil crackled louder, like it was trying to tell me something. Then came the real problem. The gravy pump. It started running by itself. The first time I figured it was a fluke. Maybe Denise left it on by accident. But when it kept happening, always at 11:11 p.m., I started watching the security footage. I regretted it immediately. Because last Sunday, when the gravy started flowing on its own, the camera caught something else. A shadow, thin, tall, standing by booth 3. Then just as fast, it was gone. Denise brushed it off, but I wasn't stupid. I knew who it was. The Sunday man wasn't in jail. Or if he was, something else had taken his place. I quit that night. Didn't bother giving notice. Just pulled off my paper hat, left my name tag on the counter, and walked out before my shift ended. But I couldn't stop myself from looking back. Through the smudged front window, booth 3 sat empty. The bones on the tray are still perfectly arranged. The security camera's red light blinks twice. And just as I turned to leave, I saw it. The Colonel's framed portrait. For the first time, I could see his smile. And this time I knew he wasn't smiling at me. He was smiling with me, like I'd finally understood the secret.